Welcome back, Thrivers. I'm going to tell you today, you have to buckle up. So this is going to be maybe the most fun episode we've had since the beginning of the Thriving Equine Professional. So I have someone that matches and probably exceeds my energy. And I have been so excited to have my dear friend, Cassie Younginer, on the show. And here we are. So Cassie is coming to us today from actually North Carolina. We'll talk about both the Carolinas, but when I'm talking about Cassie, talk about the Cassie-linas. So today's show is coming to us from the Cassie-linas. Cassie Younginer, welcome to the Thriving Equine Professional.
Thank you so much, Jody. Could not be happier to be here with you. If only we were in the same room, it would just be even more electric, but I could not be more excited right now.
I know, I agree. And so when you and I get together, I mean, that would be an hours-long podcast for sure. And we may have to have someone record it, and it might go long into the night. But here we are. And we have so much in common, Cassie. And I think we knew that. If my math is correct, I think we met on around 2019. So we've only known each other about 5 years. And we got to work together on the same team early on. And you and I just clicked. So we have some of I mentioned the same energy. We have some of the same thoughts and ideas about momentum. And I think even having more fun than some people think we should. We try not to ever be outworked, but we also try never to be outfunned, if you will, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, but work hard, play hard. And I think we do that pretty well.
Yes. So you are going to talk a little bit about your thriving career in the equine industry today. And I want to touch on really kind of your 4 pillars that, as we discussed, your advice, right, to other people. And let's talk about your story, but we're going to talk about pursuing your passion and how that has evolved. And then we're going to talk about our faith, right? You and I, like, that's important to who we are, what we do, and why we do what we do. And waking up hungry and talking about curiosity. I won't give away any more than that, but I know that you've got, a lot to say about that. But let's start at the beginning, Cassie, and tell a little bit about your story, because at your age, darling, you are quite accomplished. You've been named recently to the Cowgirl 30 under 30, the AQHA 2024 class of AQHA Lead. And so there's a lot going on in your life, not to mention that you are running the equine business for a small to mid-sized pharmaceutical company focused on immunotherapy and cancer prevention and treatment. So I feel like that's kind of a lot.
Well, thank you. It is definitely a mouthful. It's always fun when people ask me what I do because, like we kind of do what we love. And for me, it all started with the love of the horse, kind of what gathers all of us here today. So I, rode competitively in high school. I always had that working student mentality of let's go get in the grinds and actually understand the basis, the foundation, make sure that we have a solid structure to build upon, and then move further with our horses. And that kind of translates into everything that we do. So ultimately, I went to Clemson University. I graduated with an animal health and veterinary sciences degree with a concentration in equine business and a minor in business. Big use of words there to tell you that I thought I was going to ride and train horses forever. So I thought it was just going to be, happy-go-lucky Cassie sitting on horses doing what I love. Had no idea that I might get a little burnt out of that and end up where I am today. But that kind of happened through, I was at a horse show in Atlanta with an AQHA, one of the majors. It's called the Big A and Stars and Stripes show. I got a job offer after graduation to go work for Scott Jones and David Miller of Showstring. Incredible program, several world championships, Congress winners, the whole shebang. So couldn't turn it down, even though it was over in Boerne, Texas. And family and horses were in Greenville, South Carolina. So nonetheless, had to take it, jump full in, went out there, did the whole professional thing, took it home. When I got home, started an IEA team, so a middle school and high school team for local hunters and some horsemanship riders as well, with a trainer, TR Potts, in the upstate. that was a lot of fun. Brain got tired, body got tired, and I actually have to give a shout out to one of my best friends from Clemson, Allie LaForte, who introduced me to the world of veterinary pharmaceuticals. So Allie, like you and I, were at Zoetis, and I went and did a ride along with her. And she's in the companion animal world, so we were stopping into small animal clinics. And I just remember vividly asking her, "This is what you do for a living?" Like, I am shocked. I am the biggest nerd at heart. I want to know how everything works and what we can do to make things better, all of the above. And so Allie kind of helped push me into a career in the veterinary pharmaceutical world. I became an equine specialist with Zoetis and covered the Carolinas, as you are well aware, and was introduced to no one other than Miss Jody Finley, and my mentor led me to a very successful career, and then kind of pivoted a year and a couple of months into this role at Torgen as director of equine and sales operations. So I kind of, just to get everybody on the same page here, left the big Fortune 500 grind of let's cover, have the best customers, the best jobs, phenomenal territory, all the above. Could not speak more highly of the portfolio I was pushing, my team that I was working with. And I kind of actually had a turning point in my career. My best friend, my college roommate at Clemson, passed away. She was finishing up her last year of residency at MUSC in pediatrics and was diagnosed with cancer. And so we ended up losing her in November of 22, now it was. And it kind of really was a pivotal moment for me where I sat down and I kind of realized what is important in my career and in my personal life is that the daily grind, staying in the Carolinas and waking up, eat, breathe, working kind of thing. And I loved doing it. There was nothing wrong with it. Or do I want to kind of shift, maybe focus on community and focus on what truly makes me happy and pours into my cup, and, you know, be able to ride my horse or go see friends or go to Bible study on a Wednesday night, be home on a Sunday to go to church, that kind of thing. And this position opened up, came a phenomenal opportunity that aligned with not only my passion, but then that pivotal focus in life of, all right, well, if this just took my best friend, why would I not do everything I can to then prevent other people from falling into that situation? And, you know, right now we have vaccines. We work with dogs, cats, obviously horses, bears, ferrets, you name it. So some of the same technology is already available in the human world, but we're over here doing everything we can to help push it to our four-legged best friend.
Yeah. I mean, just an incredible journey in a very short period of time. And I don't want to lose the impact of many of the steps along the way, right? So let's
Yeah.
go back to Clemson, because we passed over Clemson and you didn't do too much cheering, and I know better than that. So let's talk about your
Oh,
experience at Clemson, because that's a huge part of who you are and what your brand is.
absolutely. I could not speak more highly of Clemson. And obviously, we have to talk about the vet school that we have broken down on. So very excited to get that rolling. Clemson was an absolutely phenomenal experience for me. I thought I was going to go ride in college at an NCAA program and went and toured Auburn. Shout out Adrian Scales. I know you're also a listener of the podcast. And I fell in love with the campus, with the program. My mom was adamant on me checking out Clemson. Side note, my brother is absolutely amazing and one of my best friends, but he is a year older than me and a genius. So he happened to have signed to go to Clemson to play baseball, and I was no longer going to be living in my brother's shadow and all this stuff. He ended up getting drafted out of high school to go play with the Red Sox. So Clemson kind of, you know, quote unquote, became available for me to take a look at. And the second I got on campus, I was sold. When they told me I could earn college credit for riding a horse, I was like, all right, you've got me hooked there. Say less. Where do we sign? It could have been the military, and I would have gladly gone ahead and signed my life over, kind of thing. It was an absolutely incredible experience for me. And I enjoy cities now and stuff like that. But for me, I'm more of a country girl. Give me some land, give me some space. And Clemson really did a phenomenal job of offering the lake that's right there. The mountains are close by. And then obviously with Clemson being a land grant school, we were very heavily agriculture focused. And so the time that I got to spend on the beef farm and the dairy farm and the swine, I mean, everything just kind of really came full circle to me. And obviously I love our equestrian program, and it's really kind of been able to take off lately. So the vet school nonetheless is going to be absolutely phenomenal. And I'm excited to get that rolling. One of my dear friends, Laura Jordan, has more hands in the vet school side of things going on. And we're excited to see it take shape. It's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's also important to point out, as you describe your academic experience as well, you did get a bachelor's in animal health and veterinary sciences. And so you just mentioned, I love to talk about the versatility of our college experiences. Cassie, we have so many young
Absolutely.
people, you and I have had this conversation before, that go forward into equine studies or equine majors, equine science. And so talk to us about your thoughts on why you had the experience across species and then also your minor in business. So just speak to that for us for a moment.
Yeah, and I think you just unlocked a huge part of it, Jody, is that minor in business. Is the business part of that really helps you broaden your portfolio into a lot of different careers. So instead of just being secular focused on forestry or agriculture or design, fashion, whatever that might be, by pursuing a business degree as well, you're able to kind of take that across your portfolio of, all right, well, we know we have marketing in all industries, right? We know we have accounting in all industries. We know that if we're not able to do P&Ls, then we're not going to be in good standing next year, and all that stuff that helps us forecast and whatnot. And for me to be able to gain the background of what's successful in, the beef industry is not necessarily what's successful in the dairy industry, but may have some success in the swine industry. And then how does that all loop into equine, and what different strategies work towards different goals, and maybe what doesn't work here, but it's going to work here. All of that really helps you take shape. And when I told you I was a working student growing up. And so, I was always very quick to say yes to ride whatever horse for whatever trainer. And I kind of quickly gathered that you're either going to learn what you want to do or what you don't want to do. And so for me, just being able to have all of those different doors opened at Clemson to all the different farms, even in just the introductory classes, they give you a good, pretty much standpoint on, all right, this is what I believe in. This is where I want to go. This is the path I want to take. And knowing too, that it's always okay to change up that path of, all right, I just told you I hit a pivotal moment in life, at a ripe young age of 30 of, okay, crud, I think I might need to change or think differently about my career. Is that's okay to do. And success looks different in a ton of different aspects. And if you don't keep yourself, on one straight path, it's almost better, because then you are more diverse and you're able to speak to a lot of different topics and backgrounds and understandings. And I think, I laugh because I naturally grew up doing hunters over fences. And so I was the little English girl. And so, for me, it's a really proud moment, honestly, Jody, to sit there and look back and say, I grew up going to the AQHA Youth World Show riding hunters. And then I was able to translate that into a Cowgirl 30 under 30 award in the AQHA Lead, which is naturally their Western industries. So, for me to be able to go back and say, I so appreciate the English world and what this does for me, but for me to be able to kind of go ahead and acknowledge the fact that I needed more of an understanding of what is a ranching cow horse, what defines a cowboy in these cowboy ranch classes, and how do we say that, no, you're not a cowboy, you can't compete in this one class, and stuff like that has really been fun for me to continue to challenge myself in that broad opportunity of, I no longer have a wonderful Clemson University opening the doors to the farm for me. It just translates into, the real world network that we talk about all the time.
Yes. Yeah, so much great advice there and insights. And so let's go ahead and jump right into, these recent awards. So Cowgirl 30 under 30, that's pretty prestigious. So that was was that class of 2023? Were you class of 22 or
That
23?
was That one was 23. Yep.
23. So tell us a little bit about that. Our listeners may not know what that is, and so explain it.
Yeah, I highly recommend every listener to check out the Cowgirl 30 Under 30 Award. It's head sponsored by Wrangler, and it's basically an opportunity to recognize young women in the industry, specifically in the Western industry, who are really helping move things along. So it's, almost like a sorority per se, where you have a wonderful group of individuals who are ranchers, farmers, marketers, photographers, writers. I mean, they've really done a great job of curating this sisterhood almost. And it's with one main goal of continuing to empower the female voice in the Western industry. How can we continue to be heard? I know it's listen people on the back,
Like
but
people that
it
can't see
is,
us, like I'm just cheering that on because it's an amazing, phenomenal group of women.
it really is. And I mean, the strength, and I get goosebumps talking about it just because I'm always in awe when I get around this group or when I speak to my classmates and sisters in it. Is it really is monumental to sit here and think that, even if you grew up on a ranch, not having any background other of ranching, to turn that into a successful boutique. Or, you grew up in a city, not necessarily understanding the Western world, but you knew you really wanted to get into it. And now you're running one of the major producers on the West Coast kind of deal. And it really helps you understand that if you believe it and you pray it, it can come about. And it's a phenomenal, phenomenal thing to be involved with. And even if you're not a recipient, it's a wonderful organization or award to grab hold of. And they have a big meeting every year in beautiful stockyards of Fort Worth, Texas, which we love. And even if you were not necessarily a recipient of the award, you can still come and be involved with it. And I mean, the takeaways are just extremely motivational and inspiring.
Yes. I am a little bit jealous, not gonna lie. At 45 years old, apparently I don't qualify, but it's a fun group to follow and a fun group to kind of watch and learn from. And I think again, it speaks to you and I know the importance, the impact of community. We
Yep.
leave school, we leave college, and no longer do we have this automatic group of friends because we're out in a big wide world, and so maybe we do step into a career role and we've got a great group of people that we work with, but we are not spending every day with them oftentimes, especially if you're in these outside traveling oriented roles, or now so many of us are working
Yeah.
remote. We are not interacting with people each and every day. And so the importance of those connections and that community that we build, and to your point, it's almost like a sorority, right? A sisterhood. So if you are a young woman, know that you have to find that. Whether it's Cowgirl 30 Under 30 or otherwise, we have to create our tribe. And it's just so important to our success, but more importantly, our satisfaction in life, our fulfillment in who we are, what we do, and why we do what we do. So I just think it's, an
Yeah.
incredible opportunity that, you are highlighting there. So Cassie, you also mentioned the AQHA 2024 class of lead, right? So explain that while we're going through these recent accomplishments of yours.
Yes, absolutely. So LEAD is a wonderful program now hosted by AQHA, the youth area. So it brings together a group of young individuals who I do kind of tackle whenever I say youth, because I'm like, all right, I'm no longer a youth. But, we need more involvement in honestly, the age group that I am right now. So around the 30s, the young adults, the after college era into, you're learning your career, you're establishing your career. And this program really takes hold of young, promising leaders in the industry, in the Western industry specifically, again, and it helps curate them and helps foster those leaders into becoming better in whatever, area that is. So we have a good bit of my classmates in this specific organization are in school still, so pursuing graduate degrees or doctorate degrees. There's a couple of us in the industry. There's a couple of us who are still finishing up undergrad. So it's really kind of a broader area. And I, honestly, Jody, kind of really speak heavily to the community And for me, community is huge because we're not put here on earth to do life alone. And so it might sound funny that I sit here and I love to get involved and learn from undergrads when people are like, all right, well, you've been out of college now 10 years. And there's honestly so much that I learned from them of, challenging even my perspective on something that I'm accustomed to or whatever that might look like. So AQHA Lead has really just brought together kind of a great talking place, a great networking place for us to learn more from professionals in the industry, but then also from each other and gain advice from each other on how we can be more successful and how we can help each other succeed personally and professionally.
Yeah, really incredible. And, I think that there are times that we don't know what we don't know. So when we're getting out of undergraduate and we're entering the career world, we don't necessarily know that these groups and organizations are out there. And that's part of, what we want to do. We want to kind of shout this from the rooftops. And you have to look for them and you have to find them and you have to be ready to what I call network up, right? Find the people
Yeah.
that are 5, 10+ years ahead of you, connect with them, learn from them, ask them questions, ask them what you should be doing and who you should know and who to find and kind of add to your list of contacts. And I think that that's hugely important. The other thing that you brought up in that explanation, Cassie, is where I believe we are going, whether it's as an industry or a society, and that is that it really doesn't matter what our age is. We are all leaders wherever we are, whatever age we are, whatever generation we are, whatever title we carry, whatever role we play. We have to begin to lead from where we are. I firmly believe that the traditional hierarchy and the what I'm probably call the antiquated career ladder is going away, and the gig economy continues to rise, right? We're all working differently. And so tell me a little bit more about that. You and I've both moved through some of that, and we have too much energy and too much passion to kind of be put in a box. And I
Yeah.
think that I heard that a little bit in what you said, and maybe our audience didn't. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, it's so funny because I try to tell people all the time, I'm like, if you don't give me anything to do, the whole house is going to be deep cleaned. The yard is going to be mowed. I mean, like anything, or I will also say, if you tell me I need to be somewhere at a specific time, then I'm going to start steaming all the clothes and doing it. Like I will be extremely productive in a short amount of time if I have time management on my side. But I say that the second that if I have a manager or somebody who comes up to me and says, all right, Cassie, we need you to do 1, 2, 3, and 4. That puts me, your term of a box is just so spot on, Jody. It puts me into a box of, okay, well, crud, I just have to do these 4 things. And then what? It doesn't foster that creativity. It doesn't elicit kind of that healthy growth that I like. So my manager is on the West Coast and he's very laid back and I love him and it cracks me up because it is definitely like he knows I'm sitting here and working on things kind of deal. And so it's just so nice and it's very healthy. I've been blessed to have great managers, but there was a time in my life when I had to learn to manage up. And so instead of me just sitting here and waiting on my manager, to give me a performance review or set aside time and that kind of thing, I had to learn that was my responsibility, right? And so I needed to sit here and say, okay, if I know that my manager is not great at setting ride-alongs, then I'm going to go ahead and schedule him in to doing those ride-alongs. And in this specific job that I had a manager, that was not one of the tasks that I needed him to do and stuff like that. But you do kind of learn the things. I laugh, administrative work is not my strong suit. And so, I think about it and I'm like, all right, somebody underneath me could definitely get upset if they're, trying to get like say an expense report done. And I'm like just sitting here, like this is what I look like all day long. I talk on the phone all day long, or I'm in front of customers and moving about. It's that high I extrovert in us, right? And so then for me, I'm like, okay, great, day's done, time to go ride or see friends, whatever that looks like. And so I know as something that I need to work on as administration work is that I have to set aside specific time in my calendar to be able to get things done. And then I say that as well to your point of, age is kind of it's diminishing out of being, you have to be 50 years old to hold this type of position, or, you must fit this demographic to get this job and that kind of thing. And I cannot tell you how much empowerment and motivation I get from my colleagues that have been growing with me in the industry of calling, you have Allie Lafort, who I've already talked about on here, but I'll call her and say, hey, what do you think about this different strategy, or how might you do this differently and stuff like that? And she's very successful with her tenure in the veterinary pharmaceutical industry, and now on diagnostics at Zoetis. And so same kind of industry, but different role. And then I also take that and I send it to my friends who are in, human medical world, and how do we help each other grow in different strategies. And it's really, when we think about the generations, and I know you've worked with Jay McCord a lot about this, but I love telling people about the Uber, that the most successful taxi company does not own a car. The most successful hotel chain does not own a hotel, Airbnb. And so it's, kind of this generation that we're in of how do we continue to foster that creativity, working strategically to get things done. And so as long as if I'm moving efficiently, then I'm going to continue to maximize that and grow that kind of output exponentially, versus if I'm sitting here and I'm being told, do these 4 things, sit in this box, sit at this desk, then you're not gonna get the Cassie that you want. And I'm like, all right, well, AI is good enough now. You can't just type that into Chat GPT and be done, kind of thing.
Right.
So it really is. Yeah. And it really is. It's so exciting to see younger professionals who are evolving into these leadership roles, and ones who they might be passing their own way, right? We have so many people who are saying, all right, well, I'm going to go out, and we talk about brand all the time. And, we're all a leader, like you just said, Jody. And so you're a leader in your life. I'm a leader in my life. But ultimately, what is our brand? Well, we know the Jody brand is, we're going to say cheers at the end of every email. We're going to say I'm fabulous every day. Those kinds of things. We're going to bring great energy. We're going to bring you great life. We're going to speak motivation into you and breathe it out of you. And, it's really that full compass brand. And that is you. And so, I take that and look at it into my leadership styles and my career, and how I present myself in front of customers, and what work I give, what reports I send out. And it's, all right, does this match my brand? And for me, that means my OCD is marked off. There's no mistakes. Everything looks good, no spelling errors and that kind of stuff. But, ultimately, is this something that our sales team is going to be able to utilize? So am I sending them a report that is just going to sit there, nobody really needs to look at it, that kind of thing? Or am I sending them a report where it's already filtered out to their customers, the important information, and when they're on the road, they can just sit there, click through, and get what they need out of it? So I think by having this younger leadership mentality, we keep that competitive edge going. We keep that freshness of, we haven't been doing this for 50 plus years, so we're still very excited about it. And let's grow it. Let's see what we can get it to. There is no top on the box, Jody. That.
Yeah, no top on the box. Dang it, we're coming out. We're coming out.
Absolutely, yes.
And so I want our listeners just to hear how important that mindset is. Find a culture that fits, and if that is important to you, and you're able to say, okay, here are my skills. And both of us, I want to be a better Jody today than I was yesterday. And we both say that, right?
Yeah.
But if you tell me, well, you have to be in this role for 2 years before you can go to this role, I'm like, well, I think that's kind of crap, right? If I'm successful and I have the skills and I've, proven myself and I've met the goals in a year and it's not 2 years, guess what? Like, I want more, I need more. And, so really think about, as, our listeners step into roles and work towards their own individual development and growth, because that is our responsibility, that these career promotions and changes are possible, and they're fueling, and they light your fire, and they keep you going and growing. And I think that's the most important thing. To your point about communicating across multi-generations, the Gen Z vibe is coming, and they're enthusiastic and curious and want to make an impact. The the battle of the boomers and the millennials is going away as the boomers continue to exit. Gen X, here we're here, and we're great leaders, but there's so much energy coming, and we want everyone to hear that and bring your
Yeah.
authentic energy, bring your desire to connect again and move through the disconnection that we've experienced. Bring your passion, your energy, and your motivation. That is what's going to inspire you and empower you. And like, that's what you've done. You have made changes when you've needed to make changes and chased big goals and dreams. So I think like that's what we want to share.
Well, and I think too, it's look at the verbs that you just stated. It's bring, it's do, they're action verbs. They're not sitting there and being passive. Nobody is going to bring you an opportunity. You don't just sit there and wake up someday and somebody say, hey, will you come be the CEO of, X, Y, and Z? It is, you have to take action. And I mean, Mark Reading recommended the Oz principle to me, and it is all about taking responsibility and accountability of your actions, your outcomes, your success, right? So if you don't go out there and if you don't work towards it, if you don't seek opportunity, it's not going to come. So I think one thing I've always been super big in that I do contribute a lot of my success to was consistently asking for more work.
Yeah.
So like there was one job I had. We were acquired by a larger company. I was working for a pet food brand. We were acquired by a larger company, and I had continued to ask for more and more and more work, and they gave it to me. So unfortunately, 2 people were let go throughout the transition. So I was actually doing the job of 3 people. And, this was like ripe age of 27, maybe 26. So there's definitely, you have to take those opportunities and you have to seek those out for yourself. And naturally, people love to teach for the most part. Like, at least I know my personality, I know my strong suits, and I know that I'm not very good at doing like state compliance, like that administrative, let me sit here by myself stuff. I seek those jobs that are very interactive. They foster creativity. They get you in front of people. I love public speaking. Give me a microphone. I couldn't be more thrilled, that kind of thing. And so I was always looking for opportunities that would, hey, how can I get involved with BMG, with corporate groups in the veterinary industry? What does that look like? What about the vet school? How can I go help foster good relationships with vet students and all of that kind of stuff? And so if you continue to bring those actions, and it's that, I mean, you said bring like 3 times in 2 minutes. It's like, it is you having to do the work and you setting that momentum, and energy is contagious, right? Like, that's why you and I can just sit here and go, is because we feed off of each other. Yeah. And it's a beautiful thing in life. And, I say that in understanding that not every customer is going to have that same kind of response to it. And I can take a side note very vividly. Remember, I think actually I had a great manager in Brandon Tucker with this. And it was a very funny moment. We were sitting there at a breakfast meeting, and this customer comes up, it's like 7 a.m. And she's like, yeah, I just had to let that one tech go because she was just way too much in the morning. And I automatically go, okay. And like, put like Cassie on the back burner and take things down a level. But, that's obviously in your sales and stuff like that. But when it comes to your career, you have to bring that energy forward. You can't put it on the back burner. You have to keep things going and keep things progressing, or else you're going to be at a standstill. And some people are very happy with the standstill, and I think that's beautiful. But for individuals like you and me and a lot of the followers of the podcast who have that constant drive and that competitive edge, you've got to be able to keep going and keep pushing. And that's the keeping busy part that helps bring everything forward.
Yes. So that was really, it's all encompassing of your number one kind of guiding principle here to pursue your passion. And I think that, right. So pursue your passion. Is there anything else that you want to say with that piece of advice for our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I know I'm very blessed. There's not a day I wake up and don't thank the Lord for what I get to do for a living before my feet hit the ground. Like, I was a horse crazy little girl who's a horse crazy adult, and I get to live, eat, and breathe what I love. And for me, you have the opportunity to pursue your passion in so many different ways. You already spoke about, Jody, about how in even just the equine industry, there's so many different doors that can be opened. You might not necessarily be swinging your leg over a horse every day, but you're still doing social media for an equestrian brand. And so there's so many different ways that we can go about pursuing our passion in today's world that if you're not doing that, you really run into that whole work-life balance conversation, right? Okay, well, if I'm miserable at work right now, then I'm just going to be sitting here complaining about the hours I'm putting in and not feeling fulfilled and all of that. And, ultimately you choose to fill your cup up. And if your pitcher isn't full, you don't have anything to fill into somebody's cup. So if I'm out of sweet tea, well, I can't give you any kind of thing. And when you talk about pursuing your passion, it's so fulfilling to be heavily involved, and it naturally drives better work ethic and efficiency and breathes life into you, day after day. And there's hard days with everything, right? Like I'm not wanting to be unrealistic. I know that there's days that I'm like, okay, crud, really don't want to have to go to this meeting right now, but I can wake up, I can do it, that kind of thing. And then the funny thing is, it's those days that bring you the most joy, like it's like, crud, I just drove 7 hours, but I made it and all this. And you leave and you're like, I had no idea. I just talked to these people for 4 hours, and, they're now coming to Susie's birthday party next year, or, whatever that might look like. So if you pursue your passion and you get involved with it, you're going to do more. And, we talk about faith, and one of my favorite verses is Colossians 3:23, with whatever you do, do as you're doing for the Lord, not as for human masters. And if we're doing it for the Lord, if we're not doing it for ourselves and we're doing it to our standards and what we believe is worthy, ultimately we're going to sleep great every day and be excited to wake up the next morning. And, pursuing your passion can start at any age. And I used to laugh, my brother playing professional baseball, me running horses at the time, and my parents saying, my daughter rides horses and my son plays baseball. They're like, how old are they? It's, oh, we're 25 and 26. But, genuinely, that's awesome. Like, to be able to say, we were able to make careers out of that. And I am, as I know you are, I am always happy to answer the phone and talk people through different opportunities and connect people and whatnot. But it kind of goes back to that last point of ultimately they have to be the ones to bring the effort and to put things to action. Is I know you and I are both happy to sit here and lay out, a plan, walk through a plan or a strategy with somebody, but they have to really be the ones wanting to pursue their passion to go full circle with it.
Ah, yes. So good. So good. I hope that our listeners are soaking this all up. And I love that you brought up your favorite verse. I think that's something that, we don't always talk about, right? With our sisterhood, with our tribe. And I want to make sure that young listeners out there know that is part of our brand. It's part of who we are. And faith
Yeah,
is very important. We gain a lot of, kind of my acronym life, living inspired, fulfilled, and empowered. That comes from our faith foundation. And I think that plays an important role in who we are and how others see us.
absolutely. I know that I'm beyond blessed every day, and I have to share, it was a very, we have how many meals with customers, right? The way to people's heart is through food. And
Yes.
so the majority of meetings, especially in the equine world, are over food and breaking bread, and all of that is, a faith stamp in itself. But I have to say, I was sitting there at the AQHA convention this year, and when they were kicking off the reception, they, have no problem standing up and giving prayer and acknowledging, even like their wives, their families and stuff like that. And I think it really is like you have to figure out who you are. And especially if you can start looking at that at a young age. And, I talked earlier about setting a foundation, with like my training principles of like, I've got to know that I know this horse can jump 4 feet, but if he's scared of flowers, when I go enter him into the Derby, we're all in trouble, right? Like, look for me on the Instagram Jerry of the Day kind of thing, I guess. But it is one of those things where you've got to set the foundation of yourself of who am I, Cassie, as a person? What do I believe in? What do I do these things for? And, where am I where are my morals with things, or, you know, what do I believe and who do I want to be true to? And I think for me, ultimately is, you know, I have a very strong faith, obviously, and a very strong family, and am surrounded by great friends. And it comes back to that community and support system of when you are having those bad days, even though you're pursuing your passion, you can pick up the phone. And I know I can call Jody and say, Jody, I just need some different eyes on this or different ears on this. And, you know, it brings you back to life. But yeah, I couldn't agree more that, you know, we've got to be true to ourselves. And I thought that was beautiful. And I really respected the fact that the AQHA president had no problem standing up and giving prayer before we broke bread. It was beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, beautiful. Perfect word. And so number 3 for you and your guiding principles, as I'm calling them today, is to wake up hungry. We've heard that in your story today. Again, so we'll continue with the theme of food that, you know, breaking bread together.
Yes.
But what do you mean by wake up hungry?
Yeah, it's that drive, it's that fire, it's the passion in you, right? And when I was working with David Miller and Scott Jones in Showstring in Bernie, Texas, I would be waking up at 5 in the morning and washing my hands. And they had this wonderful African proverb that I am obsessed with. It's basically the slowest gazelle knows that it must outrun the fastest lion when it wakes up. The fastest lion knows that it must outrun the slowest gazelle. So whether when the sun rises, you're a gazelle or a lion, you better wake up running. That lion is not going to have food if he does not beat the fastest or the slowest gazelle. And that slowest gazelle is going to be food if it doesn't beat the fastest lion. And so there's always somebody better, faster, stronger. I mean, those words are so much easier when we look at sports. You know, it's talking to my brother of, you know, there's a younger pitcher, a faster pitcher, a stronger pitcher, younger, you know, all of those things that come into it. It's the same thing in any career. I know there's somebody right on my heels, and I know that I'm trying to be on a lot of people's heels. And so what can I do as Cassie Younginer with Torsion Pharmaceuticals to help get myself and my company and my team to that next level? And so for me, it's going to bed. I mean, I'm a thinker. I loved your podcast on this whole work-life balance thing because it is so true. But it's like I genuinely love what I do. And so I am riding my horse thinking, oh, crud, I need to call that veterinarian over here and hook him up with this one. And then they love jumpers, so we're going to bring them here. You know, like it's all of those different conversations that are going on, and it's fun and it keeps you engaged and excited. And if you don't have that kind of excitement and fire and energy, you're not going to be the one ultimately getting the apple at the end of the day, right? Like
Yes.
you got to earn your seat at the table, and that table is filling up. And musical chairs is a fun game that we play as kids, but ultimately when you're trying to get a seat at the table, you've got to go out and get it, and you can only get it if you wake up hungry and wake up running.
Oh my gosh, that's gonna I'm gonna have to listen to all that again because the African proverb is probably my favorite part of that. So, I mean, that's
Oh, I love it.
incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah, we need to have that printed. We're gonna have that printed up. And then,
absolutely. Let's do it.
so again, you and I share this curiosity. And so I want you to explain the way that you say, because I think some of us have always questioned, why did curiosity kill the cat? Like, what does that really mean? What does that saying mean? So give us your saying and then explain it.
Yeah, so I tackle with this too. Curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. So like I've already told you, I want to know everything about everything. My boyfriend makes fun of me because I live on Google, and if I don't know how this gate opens, and I'm going to figure out how in the world this gate opens. So for me, it is, okay, I know curiosity killed the cat. So if I sit here, if I dwell on things, if I get my hands into a pot that doesn't need to be stirred or whatever that might look like, you know, what did mom always say? Nothing good happens after midnight. Like we've got to know our boundaries. We've got to know our limits and stuff like that. But ultimately I am a pursuer of information, of education, of knowledge, and I want to know how everything works. And so for me, it's understanding, you know, there's a time and a place to learn. And that's kind of the satisfaction part of it, is getting to learn about everything and stuff like that. But there also is the satisfaction and, okay, I've gained success. Let's be happy. Let's enjoy it. And then let's go back into being curious of like, don't run yourself so thin. And I know you and I talk about it a lot, is I'm such a yes man. I want to say yes to everything. And that's kind of, for me personally, that's my curiosity of like, the FOMO is real. Like, I want to do everything. I will book myself gladly for a meeting in New York and then hit California and then Florida. I mean, like, I will gladly go wherever when ultimately the satisfaction is like the quality that I can deliver. So my curiosity is in like my drive to do more, know more, be more can't outweigh my value that I bring or the value that I gain. So I kind of translate that whole thing to simplify things as like quality versus quantity of like, yes, I want to do all the things. I want to be at all the places. I want to be at every meeting or every event, whatever you might call it. But am I the best Cassie if I run myself so thin? No, I'm not. And if anybody wants to have any kind of discussion, I call my mom. she is the one who's always like, Cassie, you can't do it all. And ultimately for me, the curiosity is me trying to do it all.
Moms are always so wise.
I know. Why is that?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So, Cassie, we haven't talked a whole lot about your current role. So tell us a little bit about Torigen.
Yeah, Torigen is, like you said, a smaller veterinary pharmaceutical company. Right now, we have one main product. It is our autologous cancer vaccine. So autologous being from oneself, we actually have the veterinarian excise a tumor, and the tumor is sent to us or sent off to a histopath, and we manufacture a vaccine from it. So with any vaccine, you have two components. You have an antigen, the disease that you're vaccinating for, and then you have an adjuvant, which kind of helps carry, disperse it, stimulate the immune response. Our antigen, so that disease, is actually that tumor. So we provide that exact fingerprint of cancer back to that horse, dog, cat, ferret, bear, you name it, in way of vaccine. So we, on the equine side, we mainly focus on squamous cell carcinoma, melanoma, and sarcoids. And then the list for small animal is obviously way more in depth, just since cancer naturally does not affect horses like it does, my lovely golden retriever laying at my feet that I tell every day he's not even allowed to think about it. But it has been wonderful. I've been able to, understand what goes into launching an efficacy study. It's these kinds of things that we kind of take for granted. And, when I was an equine specialist, all I did was talk about Corey Q every day and West Nile, move back, all of that wonderful stuff. And you have these great studies and it's like, okay, well, what is my strategy now? I don't have these studies. And so thankfully, I'm sure you are well aware, I'm a relationship type salesperson. So, it's really, how can I utilize my relationships and, customer service almost, but it's providing solutions, right? And so we're able to provide a solution that we really don't have any other solutions for on the equine side. So it's, a lot, for me, I think it's beautiful because it's a lot more natural than kind of like this H-fire or whatever, kind of chemo you might do. And, I can speak, we had a white lab who had cancer, and watching him go through chemo, was horrendous. And then I saw that in Holly, my best friend who passed away when she was going through chemo. And so to be able to offer, a much more natural way to attack the cancerous cells has really been rewarding for me. And I get to talk to veterinarians all over. So today I will go see a couple in the Raleigh area since we're up here, but I get to travel around and stay with my friends. We like to think that the company likes that we're cutting down on hotel costs, but ultimately for me, it is really fun to be able to go, I usually drive a couple hours out of the way, but I get to go see friends that I want to get to see and get to go meet with some really awesome veterinarians and just help provide more innovative solutions to their practice. And, I really, for me, one of the things I love most in this is the feedback that I get after veterinarians use it of like, wow, it kind of sounded too good to be true, but this horse, I had a meeting with a veterinarian in Texas yesterday, and the horse had oozing ulcers on its tail head. gave him the vaccine 6 weeks ago, and it has stopped oozing. It also had a tumor under its throat latch. That tumor has shrunk in size. So it's those kinds of stories that really help me, talk about my passion and my drive and keep me hungry for more of those stories day after day. And then the other part of my role here at Torgen is sales operations. So that keeps me behind this trusty bad boy, this computer, and allows me to really nerd out on my numbers. I love numbers, and I love discovering, like opportunities and how we can work more efficiently, or, things like that. And so I get to help the sales team become more efficient, and that looks like a lot of reporting.
Yes. Like those stories are so rewarding. And when you get the opportunity to step into a role that suits so many of your skills and,
Yeah.
really fuels you and challenges you, that's the goal, friends. That's the goal is, being able to grow as a person and a professional and make an impact. And, like that's what we're all out here searching for when it really comes down to it. When you break it down, it sounds really complicated because we overcomplicate it. And it's really
Yeah.
not that complicated. We can simplify it. So I love it.
Yeah. I think it is funny your comment on the make an impact, because I remember Mark Reading saying, okay, you're moving from a role where you were an individual contributor, where I kind of was that direct face day after day, the main one calling, selling, whatever that might be, taking care of business, going into more of like a unit contributor and helping a team. And you do need to find, kind of like, are you okay not being the one necessarily that has all the hands in the pot? Can you relinquish some of that control, and how can you help empower your team and, everybody that you work with on whatever level it may be, to help pull things through at the end of the day. But the impact is strong. I do love the word impact.
Yes. And that brings up, I know we're running out of time, but that brings up, I want you just to speak briefly on the impact of mentorship. So you've talked about a couple different people, but I think the message, Cassie, is we need people. People need people, need people.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to the names that you've mentioned, the impact that they've made on your life, how important is that for others to hear about mentorship?
Yeah, I can't speak more highly of mentorship, and it is crucial. It has played a critical, if not the most important factor into my success, because without people like you, Jody, or, Mark Reading, or, PR Potts, trainers, horse trainers that I've worked for, everybody, I would not have been able to shape kind of who I want to be or where I want to be. And your comment of the lack of people, to put things into perspective, this is mentorship outside of the industry, but I signed up to be a mentor with a Mentor Upstate here in Greenville, South Carolina. And I chose Malden High School, go Mavs, my former high school. And I remember showing up, and the lady, when she was working with me to figure out who she wanted me to work with, she was like, we haven't had a mentor. And I was like, what are you talking about? You're in the largest area in the upstate of South Carolina. Y'all should be flooded with mentors. And I don't know if it's a cultural thing, because for me, it was interesting that it was across industry, different world, but we really do, to your point, we need more people. We need people who are willing to say, let me take 30 minutes of my week. And I tell everybody, you have at least 30 minutes, right? Like or if you want to argue with me, I will open up your phone and look at your screen time and figure out what you're doing on Instagram.
Yes.
But and the AQHA Lead program, Maggie Belleville, I actually just had a call with her yesterday. She's my mentor. She has been beyond successful within her career and showing. And, it's the little tidbits that people leave you with. And it's the support of knowing that, community, you're not doing this alone, and people have your back and they want to see you succeed. And so how can we help get more people to pour into younger individuals or people in general who are looking for the expertise that we have to share? And as you can tell, I overshare. Let me give you my social security number, but my mother's maiden name. But it really is fun for me to be able to pour into people and mentorship kind of keeps things rolling. I mean, and she was telling me yesterday, she was like, call a horse trainer and go show. You know, things outside of just work, where it's like, you're right, I need to go show to make Cassie happy. Happy Cassie is a better performer at work, in life, at all places. And so it is, if you can get a good mentor, keep them on the side. I mean, you want them on your side, and just keep listening and absorb everything that you can from everybody willing to give you their time. Time is our most valuable resource. So if people are giving it to you, they automatically think you're important.
Amen. Hear that. Time is our most valuable resource. Be present. Give people your time. You know, like, let's look up again. Let's make eye contact. Let's spend time in person with
Yes.
human beings. So yeah,
Yes.
you know, one of my good friends who I respect a lot, she breaks it down. I might have shared this before, but it resonated with me so much when she put it this way. She's like, listen, every day we've got 24 hours. If you break that down into 3/8, then you've got 8 hours we should be resting and sleeping. We got 8 hours we should be working. We got 8 hours that are ours. What are you doing with the 8 hours that are ours? What are you doing with the 8 hours that you have to work? Like, that's powerful. It's a powerful way to think about our time.
Absolutely. And I couldn't agree more. It is, you know, keep yourself healthy and happy, and that's physically, mentally, and then it's pour into other people for me. And,
Yeah.
you know, I know if I have time and I'm home, I'm riding and I'm working out, but then I'm also working with my community. I'm on the phone. You know, if I walk my dog, I'm talking to somebody on the phone. And it's, you know, those walks are a little different because they are kind of the extracurricular. Let me pour into more Clemson students and see what I can do to help propel them along and stuff like that. Because you are spot on. Those 8 hours go a whole lot quicker these days. And so how can we sit down, you know, to help structure those out to be a little bit more efficient and progressive moving forward?
A little more intentional. Let's be intentional, right? Like,
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Yep. Great word.
Okay, so I am going to ask these two questions that I've asked everybody on the show this year. First one is, do you have one book or podcast, Cassie, that you would recommend to our listeners? And if so, why?
Yeah, I think, well, I mentioned the Oz principle earlier because it talks about taking accountability and responsibility for your success. But I've also got to say, if you're interested in moving into sales, one that I have gained a lot of benefit from is the Sandler training, the How to Succeed podcast. And, you know, my dad he's the vice president of a company now, was vice president of sales for a different company. I mean, very successful salesman. And he's the one who introduced this to me. And being a high I and knowing my personality, this podcast helped me kind of sit back and think about how establishing that brand, like we talked about, Jody, of, okay, this is Cassie, how I present myself, naturally energetic, outgoing, want to share everything. My dad's first thing he told me was, don't spill all your candy in the lobby. Of like, you know, don't walk in and tell them everything you have and then leave. And so, you know, like something that I share with people now is, if you know the call is ending and somebody is like asking you a question, you've answered this question 18 times, even in the last hour, tell them you're going to follow up with them, get their cell phone number, you know, call back. Like, they're giving you a chance to open that door again and talk to them. Don't just fill everything at one time. And that Sandler podcast has just challenged me to think a couple of different ways. So I definitely recommend that one.
Oh, that's a great one. I didn't know. I mean, I'm familiar with the Sandler training, but I didn't know they had a podcast.
Yeah.
So I'll add that to my list as well. Okay. And we've talked a little bit about this one, Cassie, but my second question that I love to hear your feedback on, what is one piece of advice that you would give, knowing my definition of life balance, right, that you would give to our listeners in the face of today's hustle culture?
Yeah. You know, first and foremost, like we talked about, is you can't fill up somebody's cup if your pitcher's empty. So, you know, ultimately take care of yourself, do what makes you happy. But the do what makes you happy is choose happiness, right? Like, we wake up every day and we are given the opportunity to choose happiness or to choose joy, to choose whatever kind of mindset we want to have moving forward. And you're going to have days where you're working until 4 a.m. or you're waking up to go help cut a colic in the middle of the night, whatever that is. It's choose happiness and choose to be appreciative for these opportunities. And, you know, everything's temporary. Nothing is always permanent. And so if you can kind of just take a step back and take a deep breath and look at life. And, what is that? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on it now, but it's basically like, if things feel super rushed, then they're usually not important. And if things are important, they're not usually like a super intense kind of situation.
Urgent versus important.
Yes, thank you. Urgent. That was the word I was looking for. So yeah, it's that whole mantra of, basically you set your equilibrium and you determine how you want to pace your day and your life and your career. And for me, I am able to pace a much more upbeat, higher energy, more productive lifestyle if I'm waking up and I know that that's my baseline.
Yes.
So, if my baseline was like, I'm not sleeping in on a Saturday until 11, I'm waking up on my Saturday and getting things done. So, my baseline is me every day, and then it's just how I build it out. So you have the opportunity to choose your mindset on things moving forward, and just continue to choose the light and choose happiness, and know that everything's temporary and you get to make another choice tomorrow.
Oh, so good. And yes, that is such great advice, like to kind of summarize, because then I'm stuck on the urgent versus important. And the saying is, very few, if anything, that is urgent is important. And those things that are important are very rarely urgent.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, because it made me think about it, and I'm like, yes, we have to remind ourselves, because you and I both, like, we're go, go, go. Like, I can be in a constant rush, in a constant hurry. And life doesn't have to be lived that way. I mean, yes, I want to get as much done as possible. I want to live as much life as possible. And I want great satisfaction. And I am an efficiency queen, right? I just want to get so many things done, all the things, but slow down, take a breath, enjoy. Yeah.
Your hair is not always on fire.
Yes, I've had to learn that. You're hitting decade 1 of this career life, this professional life. I am decade 2. I'm well into, I'm past 2 decades in. I've got a quarter of a century in, and I'm still like, my hair is not on fire.
No. Life is too short to be too overwhelmed by things. And if you're overwhelmed, you're doing something wrong.
Yes.
Take a deep breath.
Take a breath. Find some people that can help you.
Yes, absolutely. Could not agree more.
Cassie Younginer, you are a gift. You are amazing. I am so thankful to finally have you on the podcast. Are there any final parting words to share with our listeners who are interested in and passionate about careers in the equine industry?
You are so sweet. I've learned so much from you. I could just tell them all the advice you gave me, but that's why they got to keep listening. But it really, honestly, we can sit here and you and I, Jody, could talk for the rest of the day and still wake up with things to talk about tomorrow. But I ultimately just leave them with, it's their choice. It's in their hands, and you pray about it. If God's not in it, he's not going to bless it. And, you just hope and pray that he shows you guidance, and it's okay to pray for signs. I pray for a lot of vivid signs, and then I'll pray for like 25 more signs before I make a decision sometimes. But that being said, just, choose happiness, wake up every day, you choose the mindset that you want. And then ultimately, like you talk about all the time, Jody, utilize your network. Don't use your network, utilize your network. So your network is not there just to call a stranger that somebody told you to call and say, hey, I want this job. Who do I talk to? It's to sit there and learn and to actually network. And, if you have a good network and support system behind you and you're doing it for the right reasons, great things are to come.
Yes. Repeat. We're just going to put this on repeat, right? So your network is your net worth, and bold prayers honor God, and God honors bold prayers. Like, so those are,
absolutely.
Like, these are the conversations that we have that bounce back and forth. Cassie, how can people find you? Where should they follow you? Connect with you, website, all the things.
Absolutely. I'm always happy to give my cell phone. I tell people call, text, and you might have to do it a couple of times, but that's on you. So Instagram, C Youngin. I'm not the best social media person. I'm honestly on LinkedIn, more Cassie Younginer. So happy to connect wherever. Don't try to Facebook message me. I won't see it. I'm honest. I know the horse community loves Facebook. You're happy or try it, but it'll take me probably a month to look at it. But social media is not a priority in my life. So feel free to reach out. My email is cassie@torgen.com, and I live on it. So that's a quick way if you're not the cell phone route.
Perfect. LinkedIn, torgen.com, Cassie@torgen.com. We got it.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Thrivers, we are going to leave you today. Cassie and I will probably just turn the record button off and sit here and chat a bit, but we wish you were with us. And please meet us back here, same time next week. Have an amazing day. Cheers.